The way a source material is adapted has a huge impact on its quality. Even if the source material is great and completely the best thing in the world, a bad adaptation can ruin it beyond belief. Or sometimes a faithful 1-to-1 adaptation can also be its downfall, as the material doesn't translate well to another medium. Or sometimes it does. The adaptation depends on the source material as well. The manga, the light novel, the visual novel, the game, how much it lends itself to change in the medium of storytelling. In some cases, the adaptation completely changes how a story is presented and changes the complete tone of it. And that is the case for the manga to anime adaptation of Oresuki. Originally, Oresuki was a light novel. Then came the manga adaptation, then popped up the anime adaptation. Here I will talk about the changes in the manga versus the anime adaptation of Oresuki, because I haven't read the light novel, nor do I plan on it. The first episode of Oresuki adapts the first 3 chapters of the manga, and we can clearly see the differences right off the bat. The anime starts off with a short introduction of Joro and Pansy's conversation, which wasn't there in the manga. This intro gives us a preface for how the series will function, with Joro, the protagonist, also acting as the narrator, and it sets the tone for the rest of the series. Now with the anime, Joro introduces himself as an average high school student, the typical of a harem anime protagonist, and tells us why his name is Joro. This is a recurring thing in the episode with each character's introduction. As Joro narrates, he tells us each character's nickname and why they are called that, and he gives us their intro.
This is Metahulk. You get Metahulk from mixing up the characters in his full name, Hatel Cum. He's a self-proclaimed cunt and an angry masturbator.
The first impression we get of Joro in the anime versus manga is different. In the anime, he is shown as a soft average high school boy, whereas in the manga, his first image is of a sharp, cool and popular kid, as his name is told to us by a couple who thank him for helping them make up. After that, the way Himawari is introduced has changed in the anime. The manga, she is introduced as Joro is waiting for her outside her house, and as she comes out and Joro points out that she is wearing makeup, to which she brushes off that conversation, trying to imply that she wore makeup to attract Joro, which is complete waste of pacing, as the manga again implies that she might be into Joro when they talk to Sun-chan after he is introduced, which is not very different from the anime. A lot of stuff between each character's intro is filler implication material that the girls like Joro, and the first episode is full of it. In the anime, Cosmos is introduced right after Sun, Joro and Himawari's banter, whereas in the manga it takes place later in the day when he goes to the student council. They cut out 6 pages worth of stuff between that, which were complete fillers, and they also cut out 19 pages worth of stuff between Cosmos' intro and her asking Joro out on a date. In the anime, she doesn't break her cool persona until her asking him for help, whereas in the manga, she breaks it even before asking him to help her. However, in the manga, she fails to ask him and later asks him on a call to meet, whereas in the anime, she asks him on a date in the student council room. But in the anime, the call which was supposed to come from Cosmos is changed into a message from Himawari, asking him on a date on the later date. And with that, they cut out 5 more chapters as they keep Joro's actual personality and motive hidden till after both of the girls have asked him for help. The way each character is introduced is changed, as they are later used to draw parallels to show the change in Joro's personality towards each character, with the exception of Sun-chan. Now the first chapter of the manga is adapted into the first 5 minutes and 40 seconds of the episode. The first chapter has 43 pages, excluding the colored page and the blank page which is there for some reason. Now, if we subtract the number of pages that were cut from the episode, we can say that they adapted 13 pages worth of stuff in the first episode. And the first episode also has a 30-second intro from chapter 3. Which means they adapted 13 pages worth of stuff in 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Quick math! Now, the anime added a montage of Joro and Cosmos' date, which wasn't in the manga. Instead, they just meet up. Similarly for Himawari, who calls Joro right after Cosmos asks for help, whereas in the anime he has both dates pre-planned with Cosmos and then with Himawari. In the manga, both the characters meeting and asking Joro for help happen in the same day, whereas in the anime they happen on 3 separate days, as both dates take place the next day and then the day after. Nothing really important. I just liked how they changed the timeline of the events to fit the content and the tone of the anime adaptation better. In the anime, after both girls ask Joro for help, he goes back into his room and has a mental breakdown, versus in the manga where he has the anger fits after Cosmos asks him for help, and also after both of them asked him for help. The anime side is a high school teenager throwing tantrums versus the manga, which is just full of rapey McVillainy faces from Sword Art Online. The easier way of explaining it would be,
"You're not my dad! You also hear something! Ugly ass fucking..."
I'm going to kill you, old man! The reason behind this difference and why the manga shows the scum side of Joro so early is because both the mediums are trying to tell the same story but in a different manner. The manga is going for a typical high school rom-com with the egotistical protagonist, whereas the anime is going for a rom-com but cranking up the com to a fucking degree, which is just out, making Joro a goofball instead of a scum. And this ends the second chapter. Now for the third chapter. They change quite a bit, but how things turn out remains the same. Now the way Himawari greets Joro in the manga here is how she greets him when she is first introduced in the anime, and the anime uses the same greeting again to draw difference between Joro's attitude and how he reintroduces himself as a background character and Himawari as someone who exploited him in the anime. The way Himawari talks to Sun-chan achieves the same thing with different dialogues and different actions. Then when Joro goes to Cosmos, she is reintroduced in a crude manner compared to her first intro. Now for her convo with Sun-chan, in the anime they talk in the hallway and it plays out similarly to how it went with Himawari, but in the manga they go to a McDonald's thing and the things play out differently. However, both the anime and the manga achieve the same thing, so I can see how it was a decision to save budget. The only thing lost was Neko Cosmos, but instead we got Bushi Cosmos, which is anime only, so fair trade? Now for how things play out with Pansy, they were again similar. However, the tone was different, and in the manga this was the first time Joro meets Pansy, whereas in the anime, when he goes to the library he is already acquainted with her. In the manga, this part gives a creepy and scary feel to Pansy, while it tries to play it off as funny with Joro. It was really weird. But in the anime, they just straight up go with comedy and they do a fantastical job with it. And the unique reactions which Joro makes, which weren't originally in the manga and have been added later in the anime, are fantastic. And another thing which they did in the anime was that they gave the goddamn bench its own character theme. And with this, the first episode ends. Now for the second and the third episode, not a lot were changed, but things were changed. There were minor changes with, again, to make things more comedy centric. Now, they don't adapt the fourth chapter and the first 8 pages of the fifth chapter. There are minor sequence changes, and some things were cut and some things were like completely changed, and some stuff was added later on. Now let's talk about how things happen in the manga versus the anime. In episode 2, which adapts the chapter 5 to 8, Joro helps both the girls out with their advances towards Sun-chan. Then after that, Sun-chan tells Joro who he likes. In the manga, Joro helps the girls, then Sun-chan tells him who he likes. Then again, he helps the girls. Now, how they manage that is that they completely remove the fourth chapter and replace it with the sixth chapter. This might seem like a small change, but this changes Joro's relationship with Sun-chan in the anime by not helping the girls after he knows whom his friend likes, and he straight goes to Pansy to request her to date him instead of helping the girls first in the manga. Shows him to be a closer friend to Sun-chan compared to the manga. Another change was when Pansy comes to meet Joro in the anime. She comes to meet him in the corridor, whereas in the manga she comes straight into his classroom, and then Sun-chan asks why she is meeting Joro, and she says that she came to give him the porn magazine he forgot in the library by mistake. But in the anime she just says that she came for some student council related work. This presents that the anime Pansy is comparatively less brash compared to her manga character. Episode 3 adapts chapters 9 to 11. Now this part has some changes to how things are presented to fit the light and more comedic tone of the anime. In the manga, when Joro is outed by Pansy, Sun-chan just beats the shit out of him. Whereas in the anime, he just punches Joro once, then Joro rolls back with the clown honk sound and then crashes into a bookshelf. In anime, when Sun-chan picks up Joro and carries him out of the library, the scene cuts to the next day, but in the manga he throws Joro in the janitor's room in the toilet, and then the next day when Joro checks his shoe locker, they are filled with tack pins. But in the anime, they were decorated with glitter and stickers. They wrote stuff in his notebook and ruined it in the manga, but in the anime they just placed a golf course model on his bench. A lot of bullying was cut out from the anime, and the one they kept, they changed it. Now, I know this seems like censorship, but it's not. Now, these were changes which were made because they wanted to make the anime more, again, comedy centric. By the way, if you look at how edgy the manga tries to be and then how the anime counters it by just turning the stuff into complete juvenile and stupid shit, makes this stuff even more funnier to me. Now, the rest of the stuff is pretty one-to-one with some changes made to things to make it, again, comedy-centric. This show is a good example of how changing things when adapting from one medium to another can make stuff better. Many shows which were better than the source material they were adapted from, like take Kion for example. It had to change things from its source material to fit the medium of animation better. But in Oresuki's case, they had to change the writing completely, which for a lot of shows doesn't work out. But in this case, it did. And that's because sometimes change is good. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll be making an anime versus manga for BEASTARS as well, because both the shows in the poll got the same votes. Like Oresuki won the YouTube poll versus BEASTARS, which won the Twitter poll. And like when I combined the votes for both of them had the equal amount of votes. Like in total it got like 14 votes. So BEASTARS also had 7 votes and Oresuki also had 7 votes. So yeah, but then I decided to do Oresuki first because it had more changes and I wanted to talk about how change is good in anime adaptations. So yeah, keep a lookout for that. And if you enjoyed the video, found it interesting or informative, leave a like and subscribe to show your support. and leave a comment telling me how you feel about if change is good, change is bad, or it depends, or is there some other anime versus manga thing you want me to make that you will find or think is interesting. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye.